Rising volatility prices in commodities and the instability created by the war in the Middle East. Jerry Gidel is ready to bring you the best advice on your marketing right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So, Jerry, we have had continued volatility in the Middle East, and the price of oil has reached $150. At least when it comes to Brent, there is a big gap between the Brent and the WTI, and many of the inputs that farmers buy are being affected, including diesel and fertilizer.
Yes, it is. It's been quite a volatile week. The interesting issue is that uh, the U.S. side of these stuff have kind of stabilized out against this $100 level. They had one spike right at the beginning at 120, but in the U.S. being, or excuse me, oil prices and that. But overall, the markets are trying to observe what's going on in the Mideast, things of that nature. Of course, that's a very hard one to always figure out here at this point, from the point of view that President Trump actually towards the end of this week, he threw out a couple ideas here that I think could easily be quite explosive in the next 7 to 10 days. Talked about trying to take a strategic island in the Straits of Hormuz to open up that particular waterway to both oil and other things along the way. And then also he threw out the idea that the U.S. should go in and take a strategic uh, move to take Iran's uranium for its well, supposedly for his electrical production, but nobody seems to believe that idea. So both of those could be quite volatile situations. So this market is going to be on edge as we go into the coming week. We've had quite a few different things this week that have caught the market's eye. Early in the week, we had a very impressive nope, a crush number. They were looking for 208 or 202 to 203 million, came in at 208.8 million. Looks like that the soybean crushing industry and the energy people are all fired up about blending the soybean oil into diesel. There's supposed to be a big announcement not next Friday. Even President Trump has invited people to the White House to, I guess, for a historic scenario. The idea here is that um, these going to switch at least 50% of the small refineries commitments to the larger ones. That earlier this month he threw out an idea of maybe going to 70%. Lots of people squealed at him about that idea. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I think it was a trial balloon and that. And so that being the case, uh, that 50% is still going to be a positive about the switchover of the smaller commitments that basically they said they couldn't handle that kind of scenario to reblend it into the society. And he's probably right. It was quite a burden for them along the way from that point. So that's something the trade will be looking at early towards the end of this coming week on things. So right now, at least, the U.S. weather could also be a factor. The National Weather Service put out their spring outlook at this point. They're still keeping above normal temperatures really across much of the U.S. except for maybe the northern plains and around the Great Lakes. That's supposed to be this near normal. Precip wise, they're projecting in the first month here of the spring period, April, and that some above normal precipits, really the western corn belt, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, and that on through Ohio and the East Coast, and that, but then the rest of the 3 month period in May and June, that above normal temps, or excuse me, above normal rainfall is really going to be towards the far end of the eastern corn belt and the East Coast. Yeah, it could be an interesting scenario, delay a few things, but maybe nothing dramatic
Yeah,
or
but I
else.
think there is a lot of factors. There are a lot of factors for bullishness in the markets. One of them is that Allendale. I'm not sure if you saw the numbers by Allendale that they will have reduced the corn plantings for the United States, while at the same time, it seems that Brazil is having a hard time getting the crop out due to the lack of diesel.
Very true on both events. Those were coming up in my agenda. I'm glad you brought them up. Uh, Allendale surveys, as you just mentioned, uh, they're expecting a 93.7 million acres. That's down from last year's. I think it was 98.7. So, gee, we're talking about nearly 5 million bushels down, or 5 million acres, I'm sorry, not bushels. From there, and that's even below the USDA is 94 million back on their uh, Ag Outlook estimates back in late February. From there, the soybean side of stuff, uh, they're anticipating that number. Uh, Oh, the best to do it this way. Uh, they're looking for a 90, excuse me, 85.6. That's up from 81.2 from that standpoint, which makes sense if you're going to have less corn, you have more beans. From that standpoint. And then on the wheat side of things, their expectations is kind of unchanged at 44.9 versus the uh, numbers that was out there around 44. Uh, yeah, 44.9 is their expectations. And then uh, the general ideas are around 45 back in the wintertime. From there, the interesting twist on that is that and that that particular number makes sense from the Midwest point of view. The high cost of fertilizer, things of that nature, reducing down the soybean, excuse me, the fertilizer needs by reducing the corn. On the soybean side, you don't need that as much fertilizer. You got certain things, but in reality, there's no heavy duty nitrogen needs. And that really is interestingly the one that the U.S. doesn't have the greatest control over. Urea and dry fertilizer is not really made in the U.S., and that is a Mid-East uh, area of the world that does that, and that has a big jump. But the interesting twist on it is that the other prominent uh, forecaster here in the world of agriculture is SP Global. They're really the remnants of Informa, and that, interestingly enough, they still are optimistic about corn plantings this spring at 95.2. I don't know if that was projected before this latest go round of issues in the Mid-East in the month of March. They were at 95 back in January, and they're right now at least their projections uh, are interestingly, at 85, they were at 84 and a half back earlier this year, and they're still low on wheat. And I think wheat is an interesting one could happen here. Uh, the strange thing about wheat is that we've had some interesting issues that happen out there. Had a big fire that developed in western Nebraska. Really had the things had a lot of influence in that market this week, and that towards the end of the week, the winds calmed down, and they haven't got any rain out there, and that's the only way you're going to completely put it out. But that's uh, right now, at least. That number was 45.3 last year, and it seems like it's going to be less than that, probably around 44 to 44 and a half million acres. Not so much that the prices are all that great, it's just the fact there's not a lot of alternatives to plant in that world out there for producers west of the Missouri
All
at
right.
this
So,
point.
yeah. So, what you think that is it a good time to sell right now?
Uh, I think you got here in the weekend ahead of all this stuff that's happening in the Mid East here on things with the chatter going on from Trump about potentially moving into this island in the Straits of Hormuz to try to defend to keep that open, or from the standpoint of trying to take away Iran's nuclear uh, supply in that. Both of those are there. Now, we've had a difficult time really of getting the U.S. prices over $105 a barrel, but anything like that in both those cases could easily happen from there. The upside about all this stuff, though, is if it does flash up there, we still, like we just discussed in some of this stuff, we're still having plenty of planting areas out there. And right now, at least, the U.S. corn and soybean carryovers are not going to drop precipitously from the 300 million to 350 million number on beans. And the 2 billion it's out, 2.1 billion now, we might go down into the 18 or 9, 1.8 to 1.9 billion number, going the right way, but not spectacular. So I would be looking to scale things up if we had some emotions on that. At this point, we're running 50 to 60%. I would definitely go to 75 if we made a move in spring beans here back into well, at this point, I think the magic number is 1220, 1250. And well, definitely would, in the 1250 to $13 mark, I would throw another 10 or 15% in there. And the same situation on corn. This 460 to, well, anything up close to $5 is where I would throw in another 20, 15% to bring us up to just below 75% on stuff. Right now, at least, uh, there's nothing in the U.S. forecast here for weather or things like that. I think there's concern about what could happen this summer if this heat builds from the southwest, but that's a long, long ways away. So right now, at least, kind of keep an eye on things and be ready to take advantage of price advances.
All right. Thank you very much.
Have a good weekend and keep your eyes on the media.